Have you ever wondered why happiness seems so fleeting? Why, despite having everything we think we need, we still feel like something is missing? Have you ever found yourself searching for joy in all the wrong places, only to realize that it doesn't last? These are questions that many of us face daily, and yet, we seldom find answers that bring true and lasting happiness. Let's take a simple example. Imagine getting a new phone, something you've wanted for months. You unbox it, feel excited, and show it off to your friends. But after a few days or weeks, that excitement fades, doesn't it? The phone becomes just another object in your life, and you're left craving the next thing that you think will make you happy. Why does that happen? And how do we break free from this cycle of temporary joy? Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where today we will explore what true happiness means and how we can achieve it in our lives, not through material things, but by looking inward. In this video series, we'll uncover insights from Buddhism that have helped millions of people find peace and joy that lasts, even when life doesn't go their way. Before we dive deeper, I want to remind you that there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. If you find value in this content, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us reach more people and continue creating meaningful content. Don't miss out on the upcoming parts that can truly change how you see happiness. Buddhism teaches us that the key to lasting happiness doesn't come from what we have, but from how we understand and deal with life. It's not about getting rid of problems or stress, but about changing how we approach them. True happiness, according to Buddhism, is found within ourselves, and it starts with understanding the nature of our own mind. In this first part of our journey, we'll introduce the core ideas that lay the foundation for happiness. Buddhism recognizes that suffering and dissatisfaction are a part of life, but instead of avoiding them, it offers a way to understand them. Through this understanding, we can start to transform our minds and lives. We'll explore how the way we react to life's challenges often creates more stress and unhappiness. Buddhism encourages us to look at the root of these reactions, helping us see things clearly for what they are, without being swept away by emotions or temporary desires. This perspective allows us to develop a deeper sense of peace. By the end of this video series, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to stay happy, not by avoiding difficulties, but by changing how you relate to them. Happiness is not about fixing every problem. It's about building a mindset that remains strong and content, no matter what life throws your way. Stay with us as we continue to uncover how Buddhism can help us build a happier, more fulfilling life. Understanding suffering, the first noble truth. As you sit here, listening, I want you to pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Have you ever wondered why, even in the best moments of life, there seems to be a shadow lingering? Why, even when we are happy, there is a part of us that feels something is missing, or something could go wrong. This feeling, this underlying dissatisfaction, is something that touches every human life. And this is where our journey into understanding happiness truly begins. In Buddhism, the starting point is the realization that life contains suffering. It may sound heavy, but it's the truth we all experience, whether we recognize it or not. This understanding is called the first noble truth, and it's the foundation for everything else. But don't let the word suffering confuse you. When we talk about suffering in this context, it doesn't only mean the big tragedies in life like loss or illness. It also means the everyday frustrations, the sense of unease, and the feeling that things are never quite perfect. Now, let's dive into what this really means, but in a very simple way. Think about a time when you were waiting for something you really wanted. Maybe a promotion at work, a new relationship, or a big purchase like a car or house. You spend days, weeks, maybe even months, thinking, once I have this, I'll be happy. And then it happens. You get it. But what happens after? The joy fades, doesn't it? That's suffering. It's not dramatic suffering, but it's the subtle kind. The kind that comes from things not being quite as satisfying as we hoped they would be. This isn't to say that happiness doesn't exist. Of course it does. But what the first noble truth tells us is that happiness, as we usually seek it, is fragile. It's dependent on things outside of us, on situations, people, or objects. And because these things are always changing, the happiness we get from them is temporary. The realization of this is not meant to make us feel hopeless. Instead, it's the first step in understanding what true happiness really is. In Buddhism, this kind of suffering is called dukkha. It's a word that encompasses everything from outright pain to that subtle, nagging feeling that things aren't quite right. Dukkha is present in every corner of life, not because life is bad, but because of the way we interact with it. Our minds are constantly chasing after things, new experiences, new goals, new relationships, believing that these things will finally bring us peace. But the truth is, as soon as we get what we want, the mind moves on to the next thing. So, why is it important to understand this? Because recognizing that suffering is part of life is the first step toward lasting happiness. It's not about being pessimistic or negative. It's about seeing things clearly, without pretending that life is perfect, or that once we solve a certain problem, everything will be fine forever. When we accept that life contains suffering, we stop fighting against reality. And in that moment, we open the door to real peace. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're carrying a heavy bag. You've been carrying it for so long that you don't even realize how much it's weighing you down. But then, someone points it out to you. They say, "Look at that bag. It's making you tired." At first, you might not want to believe them. You might think, "No, it's fine. I've been carrying it this whole time." But as soon as you acknowledge that the bag is heavy, you can do something about it. You can put it down. The first noble truth is like that. It helps us see the weight we've been carrying around, the burden of always wanting things to be a certain way, and the suffering that comes from that. It's important to understand that suffering doesn't just come from bad things happening. It also comes from good things. You see, even the happiest moments in life can be a source of suffering because we fear losing them. Think about a time when everything was going well. Maybe you were on a vacation or spending time with loved ones. In those moments, there's often a small voice in the back of your mind saying, "I wish this could last forever." But it doesn't. And that longing, that fear of change, is also a kind of suffering. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience. But, and this is important, it's not a problem to be fixed. Suffering isn't something we need to eliminate from our lives. Instead, it's something we need to understand. When we understand it, we stop being afraid of it. We stop running from it. And this is where the real transformation begins. The first noble truth doesn't ask us to reject life or to avoid joy. On the contrary, it encourages us to live fully, but with awareness. Awareness that life, as it is a mixture of both joy and sorrow. And when we stop expecting life to be perfect, we start to find a deeper kind of peace. A peace that isn't shaken by the ups and downs of daily life. Now, some of you might be thinking, "Okay, I get that suffering is part of life. But how does that help me stay happy?" The answer lies in the next step of our journey, which is recognizing the cause of suffering, something we'll explore later. But for now, just take this understanding with you. When we stop fighting against the fact that life contains suffering, we create space for true happiness. We start to experience moments as they are, without the constant need for them to be different or better. As you continue through this series, keep this idea in mind. The first noble truth isn't about giving up on happiness. It's about seeing the world clearly, with open eyes. When we see the world as it truly is, we start to find a kind of happiness that doesn't depend on things going our way. It's a happiness that arises from within, from a mind that is calm, clear, and at peace with the ever-changing nature of life. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the cause of suffering. But for now, remember this. Understanding suffering is the first step toward breaking free from it. It's the beginning of a journey, not the end. So, take a deep breath, and let's continue to explore what it really means to be happy in a way that lasts. The cause of suffering, the second noble truth. So here we are, at a point in our journey where we begin to understand something deeper. In the last part, we touched on suffering, that nagging feeling of dissatisfaction, the stress that seeps into our lives. But now, you may be asking why? Why do we suffer? What is the root cause of it? This is where we come to the second noble truth, the cause of suffering. It is perhaps the most important thing to grasp because if we know what causes our suffering, we can also understand how to end it. And that, my dear listener, is where true happiness begins. We suffer because of desire, or in more precise terms, attachment. You see, we cling to things. We hold on tightly to ideas, possessions, people, and expectations. We believe that if we get what we want, we will be happy. But when we don't, or when what we get doesn't last, suffering arises. This is what the Buddha called tanha, often translated as craving or thirst. It's this thirst that keeps us trapped in a cycle of endless desire, chasing one thing after another, hoping that this next thing will finally make us happy. Let's take a closer look at how this happens in everyday life. Imagine a sunny day, bright and warm. You decide to go for a walk, enjoying the gentle breeze, the colors of the world around you. But then, clouds appear, and the rain begins to fall. What was a peaceful moment turns into frustration. Why? It's not because of the rain itself, but because your mind has created an attachment to the idea of a perfect, sunny day. You wanted things to stay as they were, and now that they've changed, suffering arises. This might seem like a small example, but it reflects a much larger pattern in our lives. We attach ourselves to all kinds of things: our jobs, relationships, material objects, even our own identities. We believe that these things define our happiness, and when they shift or change, as all things naturally do, we feel pain. Attachment, craving, and desire. These are the roots of suffering. They come in many forms. Some of us are attached to material possessions, always wanting more. Others are attached to certain outcomes, thinking we must succeed in a particular way. And some are attached to the opinions of others, constantly seeking approval and validation. All of these attachments bind us, and the tighter we hold on, the more we suffer. Now, let me share a simple story with you, one that captures the essence of this truth. Once, there was a farmer who had an old horse. One day, the horse ran away. The neighbors came to express their sympathy, saying, "Such bad luck." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors again came to the farmer and said, "How fortunate." Again, the farmer replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, and he was thrown off and broke his leg. The neighbors once again offered their sympathy. "What terrible luck." But the farmer, with calm eyes, said once more, "Maybe." The story doesn't end here, of course. Soon after, soldiers came to the village to draft young men into the army. But because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was spared. "How lucky," the neighbors exclaimed. And once more, the farmer said, "Maybe." Do you see? The farmer in this story wasn't attached to the outcomes of any situation. He didn't crave a particular result. He simply accepted things as they came, without clinging to the idea of good or bad luck. He understood that all things are in a constant state of change, and by not attaching himself to them, he was able to remain peaceful and content. This is what we must learn if we are to overcome suffering. We must recognize that it is our attachment, our clinging, that causes us pain. We cling to what we think will make us happy, and when those things slip away, as they inevitably do, we are left with suffering. But there is more to it. You see, desire isn't just about craving pleasant things. It's also about rejecting unpleasant things. We crave pleasure, but we also push away discomfort. When something unwanted happens, we immediately react with resistance. "I don't want this." And this resistance creates suffering. Think of a time when you had to deal with something you didn't like, a difficult person, a failure, or even a physical illness. The more you resisted, the more frustrated you became, right? The pain increased because you were trying to push it away. This is another aspect of tanha, the desire not just for something, but also the desire to avoid something. We want pleasure, and we want to avoid pain, and it is this constant push and pull that keeps us in a state of unrest. Now, how do we begin to loosen the grip of desire? How do we start to let go of this craving that keeps us trapped in a cycle of suffering? It begins with awareness. We must first become aware of the patterns in our minds, how we constantly reach for things, how we react when things don't go our way, how we resist discomfort. Without awareness, we cannot change. But with it, we can start to see the truth more clearly. When you notice yourself craving something, whether it's a material object, recognition, or even just a pleasant feeling, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, Why am I craving this? Do I believe this will make me happy? And if I don't get it, will I be unhappy? In doing so, you begin to see the fleeting nature of your desires. They come and go, and often, they bring more stress than satisfaction. Similarly, when you find yourself resisting something unpleasant, take a moment to reflect. Why are you pushing it away? Is it because you think life should always be comfortable? When you resist pain, you actually give it more power over you. But when you accept it, you find that it loses its grip. Buddhism teaches us that desire is a natural part of life, but it is also the cause of suffering. By recognizing it, we can start to free ourselves from its hold. We begin to see that true happiness does not lie in fulfilling every desire, nor in avoiding every discomfort, but in finding a balance, a middle way, where we can accept life as it is, without clinging or pushing away. This is the essence of the second noble truth. Desire and attachment are the roots of our suffering. But once we understand this, we have the power to change. We can begin to let go, little by little, and in doing so, we free ourselves from the cycle of craving and disappointment. In the next part, we will continue this journey, exploring how, by letting go of attachment, we can end suffering and discover a happiness that is lasting and true. The role of meditation, finding inner peace. Sit with me for a moment. Just pause, breathe, and let your thoughts settle. Feel your body relax, your mind start to quiet down. This, my friend, is the beginning of meditation. In our busy world, it can feel like there's no time for stillness. We're constantly rushing from one task to the next, our minds full of distractions, worries, and plans. But what if I told you that peace doesn't lie in fixing all those problems, but in learning to sit with them? This is the lesson that meditation teaches us. In Buddhism, meditation is one of the most powerful tools for finding true happiness. Why? Because meditation allows us to see things as they really are. We often get caught up in the chaos of life, thinking that we need more things, more success, or more control over our surroundings to be happy. But meditation helps us see that happiness is already within us. We just need to learn how to access it. When you sit down to meditate, you are creating space for yourself. Space from the noise of the world and space from your own busy mind. It might seem difficult at first because your thoughts will try to pull you away. What should I do tomorrow? Did I forget something important today? Why is this so hard? These thoughts will come, but meditation is not about stopping them. It's about noticing them and letting them pass by like clouds in the sky. You don't have to chase the clouds, nor do you have to push them away. You simply watch them drift, knowing that they will eventually disappear on their own. The purpose of meditation is not to control your mind, but to understand it. We often get so caught up in our thoughts that we believe them without question. We let them drive our emotions and actions, sometimes leading us into stress, anger, or sadness. But in meditation, we learn that thoughts are just thoughts. They come and go. They do not define us. And when we understand this, we begin to find peace. There are many forms of meditation, but in Buddhism, one of the most common is mindfulness meditation. It's a practice of paying attention to the present moment, without judgment. You might focus on your breath, feeling it as it comes in and out. Or you might focus on the sensations in your body, or the sounds around you. The key is to stay with the experience of the present, to notice it fully, and to let go of any thoughts or judgments that arise. Now, you might ask, why is this important? How does sitting quietly help me be happy? The answer lies in the nature of our suffering. Much of the pain we feel comes from our attachment to things, whether it's material things, ideas, or emotions. We become attached to wanting things to go a certain way, to needing life to fit our expectations. But life rarely works out exactly how we plan. And when it doesn't, we feel disappointed, frustrated, or even hopeless. Meditation helps us see this attachment more clearly. When we sit in stillness, we notice how our minds constantly reach for something. We want to feel more comfortable. We want to get rid of boredom. We want to escape unpleasant thoughts. But in meditation, we practice staying with whatever is happening, without trying to change it. This is where freedom begins. When we learn to stop resisting life and start accepting it as it is, we find a peace that cannot be shaken. Meditation is like a mirror for the mind. It shows us what's really going on inside. Often, We live on the surface, dealing only with the symptoms of our stress or unhappiness. But meditation takes us deeper. It reveals the patterns of thinking that keep us stuck, the fears that hold us back, and the desires that distract us from what really matters. And once we see these clearly, we can begin to let them go. In the practice of meditation, you might notice that your mind often jumps from one thought to another. This is normal. The mind has been conditioned to be restless. But with patience and practice, you will find moments of stillness. These moments are precious because they show you that beneath the busy mind, there is a place of calm. This calm is always there, even when life feels chaotic. And the more you meditate, the easier it becomes to return to this calm, even in the middle of stressful situations. Meditation also teaches us about impermanence, a core teaching in Buddhism. Everything in life is constantly changing. Our thoughts, our emotions, our circumstances. Nothing stays the same for long. When we meditate, we become more aware of this truth. We see how quickly our thoughts change, how emotions rise and fall like waves in the ocean. And when we accept this impermanence, we stop clinging to things that are bound to change. We begin to let go of the need to control everything, and in doing so, we free ourselves from a lot of unnecessary suffering. But meditation is not just about finding peace in the moment. Over time, it transforms us. It helps us cultivate qualities like patience, compassion, and clarity. We become less reactive to the ups and downs of life and more grounded in our true nature. We start to see the world with fresh eyes, appreciating the beauty in simple things and finding joy in the present moment. Think of meditation like planting a seed. Each time you sit in stillness, you are watering that seed. At first, you might not see much change, but with time and care, it will grow into a strong, healthy tree. The tree represents your inner peace, your ability to stay calm and happy no matter what life throws at you. But like any tree, it takes time to grow. So be patient with yourself. Meditation is not about achieving instant results, but about building a lifelong practice of inner peace. You might find that some days, meditation feels easy and peaceful, while other days, it feels difficult and frustrating. This is normal. Just like the weather changes, so too does the state of our minds. But remember, the goal of meditation is not to feel a certain way. The goal is to be with whatever is happening, without judgment, without resistance. In this way, we learn to live in harmony with ourselves and with the world around us. Through meditation, we begin to see that happiness is not something we need to chase. It's not out there in the future, waiting for us to find it. It's here, right now, in this very moment. All we need to do is stop and pay attention. When we do this, we discover that true happiness comes not from external things, but from within. It comes from a mind that is free from attachment, free from fear, and open to the present moment. So, my friend, as you continue on this journey of understanding happiness, remember that meditation is your guide. It will show you the way back to yourself, to the peace and joy that are already within you. All you need to do is sit, breathe, and be. Ah, dear one, you have come to a crucial moment in your journey to happiness. You seek to understand how to live with peace and contentment, no matter the challenges. In Buddhism, there is a path that leads to happiness, a clear way to walk through life with wisdom, calm, and compassion. It is known as the Noble Eightfold Path. Let us walk this path together today, step by step, as it holds the key to a happier, more fulfilled life. The Noble Eightfold Path is not just a set of rules. It is a way of living, a guide to help you transform your thoughts, words, and actions. It is a practical blueprint for living a life where happiness is not something you chase, but something that naturally arises from within. The first step, right understanding. The first step on this path is right understanding. What does this mean? It means seeing the world clearly, just as it is. Many times, we suffer because we misunderstand the nature of life. We think that we will find happiness in things, money, success, material possessions, but these are all temporary. When we understand that true happiness comes from within, we start to let go of our attachment to external things. Right understanding also means recognizing that life includes suffering. It is a part of existence. We cannot avoid it, but when we accept it, we stop struggling against it. And in this acceptance, we find peace. It is like trying to swim against a strong current. You tire yourself out, but when you let go and flow with the river, you find yourself moving effortlessly. Right understanding is about seeing this truth. The second step, right thought. Next comes right thought. This is about the intentions we hold in our minds. The thoughts we nurture shape our actions, and our actions shape our lives. If our minds are filled with thoughts of greed, anger, or jealousy, those feelings will spill into our words and actions, causing harm to ourselves and others. But if our thoughts are kind, compassionate, and free from attachment, we create the conditions for happiness. Imagine planting a garden. If you plant seeds of kindness and compassion, you will grow a garden full of peace and joy. But if you plant seeds of anger and greed, your garden will be full of suffering. Right thought is about tending to the seeds in your mind, choosing to nurture those that lead to happiness and uprooting those that cause harm. The third step, right speech. Right speech is the next step. Words are powerful. They can build someone up or tear someone down in an instant. Right speech means speaking truthfully, kindly, and with the intention to help, not harm. When we speak with honesty and kindness, we create harmony in our relationships and peace within ourselves. But it's not just about avoiding lies or harsh words. Right speech also means speaking at the right time, with the right intention. Sometimes, silence is the most compassionate choice. Have you ever noticed how peaceful you feel when you refrain from saying something hurtful, even though you may be tempted to? That is the power of right speech. The fourth step, right action. We then move to right action. This step is about aligning our actions with our values. It means living in a way that causes no harm to others, and it encourages us to be mindful of the impact of our actions. Right action includes things like being generous, not taking what is not freely given, and living with integrity. Think of right action as planting the seeds of happiness through what you do. Every action is like a ripple in a pond. What you do affects not only yourself, but those around you. When you act with kindness and care, those ripples spread out, bringing peace and happiness to others. In return, your own life becomes more harmonious and joyful. The fifth step, right livelihood. The fifth step is right livelihood. This means earning a living in a way that does not cause harm to others or the world around us. It's about choosing work that aligns with our values and contributes to the well-being of all beings. Many people spend much of their lives in work that causes stress, frustration, or even harm. Right livelihood encourages us to ask, does my work help others? Does it bring peace or create suffering? When we find a way to support ourselves while doing good in the world, we find a deep sense of purpose and satisfaction. That is the essence of right livelihood. The sixth step, right effort. Now, let's talk about right effort. This step is about making a sincere, continuous effort to improve ourselves, but in a balanced way. It's about finding the middle path, neither being too hard on ourselves nor being too lazy. Right effort means making the effort to cultivate good qualities like kindness and mindfulness while letting go of unwholesome habits that cause us harm. It's like tending a fire. If you add too much fuel at once, the fire may become overwhelming and burn out quickly. If you don't add enough fuel, the fire will die. But with just the right amount of effort, the fire burns steadily and warms you. That's what right effort feels like. A steady, peaceful improvement without forcing or pushing yourself too hard. The seventh step, right mindfulness. Next, we come to right mindfulness. This step is about being fully present in each moment, without distraction. It's about paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, and actions, without judgment. When we are mindful, we live in the present, instead of being caught up in worries about the past or future. Mindfulness helps us see things clearly. It helps us notice when we are starting to feel stressed, anxious, or angry, and it gives us the space to respond wisely, rather than react impulsively. It's like being a clear, calm lake. When the water is still, you can see all the way to the bottom. When your mind is still, you can see clearly what's going on inside you. The eighth step, right concentration. Finally, we arrive at right concentration. This step is about focusing your mind on what is important, rather than being scattered or distracted. It's about developing a deep, calm focus through practices like meditation, which allows us to go deeper into ourselves and understand the nature of reality. Right concentration helps us develop a mind that is steady and clear, like a mountain that remains unmoved by the wind. With this calm and focused mind, we can see things as they truly are, and we can experience a deep, lasting happiness that does not depend on external conditions. The Noble Eightfold Path is like a map guiding us toward a life of happiness, peace, and wisdom. Each step is connected to the others, and together, they form a complete way of living. As you walk this path, you will begin to see that happiness is not something outside of you. It is something you cultivate within yourself. Happiness is not a destination. It is the way you walk through life, with understanding, kindness, mindfulness, and wisdom. Keep walking this path, dear one, and you will find that happiness is always with you, no matter where you are or what challenges come your way. Mindfulness, living in the present moment. Mindfulness, the art of being present, the gateway to true happiness. You see, many people live their lives as if they are sleepwalking, not fully aware of what is happening around them or within them. They rush from one moment to the next, always thinking about the past or worrying about the future. This, my dear friend, is the root of much of our suffering. We forget the present moment, the only moment where life truly exists. Consider this. How often do you find yourself thinking about what you need to do later, even while you're eating, talking, or spending time with loved ones? How often do you replay past conversations or regret decisions from yesterday? Your mind is constantly wandering, isn't it? And yet, all we truly have is this moment, right here, right now. Mindfulness, as taught in Buddhism, is about bringing your full attention to the present moment. Not just occasionally, but making it a practice, a way of life. When you are mindful, you are aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations, but you don't get swept away by them. You observe them, you notice them, and you let them pass, like clouds drifting across the sky. The power of mindfulness lies in its simplicity. It is not something difficult or complex. It is about doing what you are already doing, but with complete awareness. When you walk, be aware of walking. When you eat, be aware of eating. When you are speaking with someone, give them your full attention without distractions. It is that simple, and yet it transforms your entire experience of life. Let's take a simple example, drinking a cup of tea. How often do you rush through your tea, not really tasting it, thinking about your next task or what happened earlier in the day? But when you drink your tea mindfully, you are fully present with it. You feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, you notice the aroma, you taste the subtle flavors, and for that brief moment, you are truly in the present. There is no past, no future, only the now. When we practice mindfulness, life itself becomes richer and more vivid. The small moments that we often overlook become precious. The sound of the wind, the laughter of a child, the taste of food. These everyday experiences bring joy when we are fully present with them. And in that presence, we find peace. But why is mindfulness so important for happiness? Because, my dear friend, it stops the mind from its constant running. The mind loves to dwell on what happened or what might happen, but this creates anxiety and stress. The mind pulls us into stories of regret or fear, but those stories are not real in this moment. Mindfulness anchors us in reality, in what is happening now, and when we are in the now, suffering fades away. Let me share with you a simple truth. Happiness is always available in the present moment. It's only when we abandon the present, when our mind runs to the past or future, that we lose our sense of peace. But when we bring our attention back to the present, we find that there is no need to search for happiness. It is already here. The Buddha often taught about the importance of mindfulness in achieving lasting peace. He understood that the root of suffering lies in our inability to be present. We cling to things that have already passed, or we grasp for things that have not yet come, and in doing so, we miss the beauty of what is right in front of us. Mindfulness is the antidote to this suffering. It teaches us to let go of our attachments to past and future and simply be with what is. Of course, mindfulness is not just about being present when things are pleasant. It also helps us stay grounded when things are difficult. When we face challenges, our natural reaction is often to resist, to escape, or to fight. But mindfulness teaches us to stay with our experience, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. By being fully present with our discomfort, we begin to see it for what it really is. we notice that it is not as permanent or overwhelming as we might have thought. We learn to face our difficulties with calm and clarity, rather than being consumed by them. Think of mindfulness like this. Imagine you are standing by a river, watching the water flow. The water represents your thoughts, your emotions, your worries. When you practice mindfulness, you are simply watching the water, not jumping in and being swept away. You observe the thoughts and feelings that come, but you don't have to react to them. You don't have to be carried away by them. You can just watch them come and go. This is the practice of non-attachment, which is closely linked to mindfulness. When we are mindful, we realize that thoughts and emotions are temporary. They come and go, just like clouds in the sky. And when we understand this, we don't cling to them. We don't try to hold on to happy moments or push away difficult ones. We accept things as they are, and in that acceptance, we find peace. Mindfulness, then, is the practice of being fully alive in each moment. It is about embracing life as it is, without wishing it were different. It is about seeing the beauty in the ordinary, the joy in the simple act of breathing, walking, or eating. And when we live like this, we find that happiness is not something we need to chase. It is already here, waiting for us to notice it. In our modern world, mindfulness is more important than ever. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, our phones, our work, our worries. It is easy to lose ourselves in the busyness of life and forget to be present. But the good news is that mindfulness is always available to us. We don't need anything special to practice it. All we need is the willingness to bring our attention back to this moment again and again. So, how do we cultivate mindfulness in our daily lives? Start small. Choose one activity each day, whether it's eating, walking, or even brushing your teeth, and do it mindfully. Bring your full attention to it. Notice every detail, every sensation. When your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the present. Don't judge yourself for getting distracted. Just return to the now. Over time, you will find that mindfulness becomes more natural. You will start to notice when your mind is wandering, and you will be able to bring it back to the present more easily. And as you do, you will find that your sense of peace and happiness grows. You will no longer be so caught up in the stories of the mind. You will be more grounded, more centered, and more at peace. Remember, mindfulness is not a quick fix. It is a practice, something we cultivate over time. But the rewards are profound. With mindfulness, we learn to live fully in each moment, to find joy in the simple, and to remain at peace even in the midst of life's challenges. And that, my dear friend, is the true path to lasting happiness. Stay mindful, stay present, and happiness will follow. Compassion, the key to a happy life. Let me tell you something simple, yet so often forgotten. Compassion is the heart of happiness. You may wonder, how can caring for others bring me happiness? Isn't happiness something we find for ourselves? Well, my friend, the truth is, we cannot truly be happy if we ignore the suffering of others. The path to lasting happiness isn't a solitary one. It is a path we walk together, hand in hand with kindness and compassion. Compassion is not just a feeling, it is a way of life. It means opening our hearts to the pain and struggles of others, recognizing their suffering as if it were our own. When we do this, we connect deeply with those around us. This connection softens our hearts, dissolves the barriers that separate us, and brings us closer to the joy of understanding and empathy. In our modern world, people are often in a hurry, chasing their goals, their dreams, and their desires. We forget to stop and notice the people around us. But when we live this way, we create an invisible wall between ourselves and the rest of the world. We focus so much on our own needs and wants that we become blind to the needs of others. This blindness may give us temporary satisfaction, but it leaves a void inside that cannot be filled by material success or personal gain. Buddhism teaches us that compassion is the antidote to this self-centered way of living. It allows us to break through the walls of selfishness and isolation, to reach out and touch the hearts of others. When we cultivate compassion, we don't just help others, we help ourselves. Why? Because when we extend kindness to others, we discover a deep and lasting joy that comes from connection, from the act of giving, from seeing someone else's burden become lighter. You see, the world is filled with suffering. This is the reality of life. But the good news is that we have the power to ease that suffering, not only for others but for ourselves as well. The more we give, the more we receive. Not in a material sense, but in a spiritual one. When we act with compassion, we feel lighter, more open, and more at peace with ourselves and the world. Now, you might think, I already have enough of my own problems. How can I help others when I am struggling myself? It's a fair question. But here's something important to understand. Compassion doesn't require us to have everything figured out. It doesn't ask us to be perfect or free from our own pain. In fact, it is often our own suffering that teaches us how to be compassionate. When we have experienced hardship, we can better understand what others are going through. Our own struggles become the foundation for empathy. When we focus only on our own suffering, it can grow and feel overwhelming. But when we turn our attention to others, something amazing happens. Our hearts expand, and suddenly, our own pain feels lighter. By helping others, we help ourselves. Compassion transforms our suffering into something meaningful. It takes the sharp edges of our own pain and smooths them out, allowing us to find peace even in difficult times. In Buddhism, compassion is known as karuna. It is one of the most important qualities we can develop. But karuna is not just about feeling sorry for someone or offering them pity. True compassion is active. It's about seeing the suffering of others and doing what we can to help, even if it's just offering a kind word or a listening ear. Let's take a moment to reflect. Think about someone in your life who is struggling. It could be a friend, a family member, or even someone you don't know very well. What can you do to ease their burden, even in the smallest way? Perhaps it's just sending them a message to let them know you're thinking of them. Maybe it's offering to help with a task that's weighing them down. Or it could simply be sitting with them in silence, offering your presence and your understanding. These small acts of compassion ripple out into the world, creating waves of kindness and connection. And don't forget to extend that same compassion to yourself. We are often our own harshest critics. We judge ourselves more harshly than we would ever judge another person. But compassion must begin within. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a close friend. When you make a mistake, forgive yourself. When you're struggling, give yourself the space and time to heal. Self-compassion is not selfish. In fact, it is essential, because only when we care for ourselves can we truly care for others. You may have heard the saying, happiness shared is happiness doubled. This is true in every sense. When we share joy, it grows. When we share love, it multiplies. Compassion is the foundation of this sharing. It is the bridge that connects us to others and allows happiness to flow freely. Now, let me share a small story with you. There was once a great Buddhist teacher who lived a simple life. He had very few possessions, yet he was known for his deep wisdom and kindness. One day, a troubled man came to him, seeking advice. The man was burdened by grief, and he asked the teacher, "Why am I always suffering? How can I find peace?" The teacher smiled and said, "Come with me." He led the man to a nearby village, where they spent the day helping the villagers with their daily tasks, cooking, cleaning, and caring for the sick. At the end of the day, the man felt lighter, even though his own problems had not disappeared. He asked the teacher, "Why do I feel better?" The teacher replied, "Because when we help others, we forget ourselves. And in forgetting ourselves, we find peace." This story illustrates a simple truth. When we shift our focus from our own pain to the pain of others, we unlock the door to true happiness. Compassion is not about solving all the problems of the world. It's about doing what we can, in the moment, with the resources we have. Each small act of kindness adds up, creating a life filled with meaning and joy. As we move forward in our journey toward happiness, let us remember that compassion is at the heart of it all. It is the glue that binds us together as human beings. It is the light that shines in the darkest of times. And it is the path to true and lasting happiness, not just for ourselves, but for everyone we encounter. Compassion, my friend, is the key. Use it wisely, share it freely, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. The role of meditation, finding inner peace. In the quiet moments of our lives, when we pause and breathe, we find the gateway to inner peace. Meditation is a powerful tool that has been practiced for centuries. It is not just about sitting cross-legged and closing your eyes. It is about training the mind to find calm amid the chaos of life. Imagine a lake. When the water is still, you can see your reflection clearly. But when there are ripples and waves, everything becomes distorted. Our minds are much like that lake. In our daily lives, we encounter stress, worries, and distractions that create waves in our minds. Meditation helps us calm those waves, allowing us to see our thoughts and feelings more clearly. So, what is meditation? At its core, meditation is a practice of focusing our attention. It can take many forms. Some people focus on their breath, while others may repeat a word or phrase. Some may visualize a peaceful scene, while others simply observe their thoughts without judgment. The key is to find a method that resonates with you. Let's take a moment to understand the basics of meditation. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit comfortably, either on a chair or on the floor, and close your eyes gently. Take a deep breath in through your nose, allowing your belly to expand, and then slowly breathe out through your mouth. Do this a few times. Feel the air entering and leaving your body. This simple act of focusing on your breath brings your awareness to the present moment. As thoughts begin to arise, perhaps worries about the future or memories from the past, acknowledge them, but then gently guide your focus back to your breath. It's normal for the mind to wander. Each time you bring your focus back, you are strengthening your ability to concentrate. Over time, this practice allows you to observe your thoughts without getting caught up in them. Meditation can also help us cultivate mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully present in each moment. When we eat, walk, or talk, we often do it on autopilot, our minds elsewhere. Mindfulness invites us to experience life fully. For example, when eating, take a moment to notice the colors, textures, and flavors of your food. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet and the air on your skin. This practice deepens our connection to the world around us and helps us appreciate the beauty in everyday life. As we meditate, we may also encounter difficult emotions. It's important to remember that meditation is not about escaping these feelings, but rather embracing them. When sadness, anger, or anxiety arise, allow yourself to feel them. Acknowledge their presence, but do not let them control you. By sitting with these emotions, we learn that they are temporary. Like clouds passing through the sky, they will eventually drift away. One of the beautiful aspects of meditation is that it allows us to connect with our true selves. In our busy lives, we often lose touch with who we are. We wear masks to meet the expectations of others, but in meditation, we can drop those masks and simply be. It's a space where we can listen to our inner voice and understand our needs and desires. As we continue to practice meditation, we may notice changes in our daily lives. We become more patient, compassionate, and understanding. Our reactions to stress and challenges shift. Instead of responding with frustration, we may find ourselves responding with kindness and clarity. This transformation stems from the deep awareness we cultivate through meditation. In Buddhism, meditation is not just a practice, it is a way of life. It encourages us to live with intention and mindfulness. Each moment becomes an opportunity for growth and understanding. We learn to see the interconnectedness of all beings and recognize that our thoughts and actions have a ripple effect on the world around us. Moreover, meditation can guide us on the path to happiness. It teaches us that happiness is not found in external possessions or achievements, but in our inner state of being. When we quiet the noise of our minds, we discover a profound sense of peace that is always within us, waiting to be accessed. Let's take a moment to explore different forms of meditation. One popular practice is loving-kindness meditation, or metta. This meditation encourages us to cultivate love and compassion for ourselves and others. To practice, find a comfortable position and close your eyes. Begin by silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be safe," "May I be at peace." After a few minutes, extend these wishes to someone you care about, then to someone neutral, and finally to someone you may have difficulties with. This practice opens our hearts and fosters empathy, making us more connected to those around us. Another form is mindfulness meditation, which focuses on the breath. Sit comfortably and pay attention to your breathing. Notice the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. When your mind wanders, gently bring your focus back to the breath. This simple practice trains the mind to be present and aware, helping us cultivate a sense of calm. Meditation can also be practiced in movement. Walking meditation is a wonderful way to combine mindfulness with physical activity. As you walk slowly, focus on the sensations in your feet and legs. Feel the ground beneath you and the rhythm of your breath. This practice allows us to connect with our bodies in the present moment. As we journey deeper into meditation, we may experience moments of stillness and clarity. These moments are like a breath of fresh air for the mind. In this stillness, we can access deeper insights about ourselves and our lives. It is here that we can reflect on our values, aspirations, and what truly matters to us. Finding inner peace through meditation is not an overnight achievement. It requires patience and dedication. Just as we build muscles through consistent exercise, we strengthen our minds through regular meditation practice. Start with just a few minutes each day and gradually increase the duration as you become more comfortable. As we conclude this part, remember that meditation is a personal journey. There is no right or wrong way to practice. Each person's experience is unique, and that's what makes it beautiful. Be gentle with yourself as you explore this practice. Allow yourself to grow at your own pace and embrace the journey toward finding inner peace. By integrating meditation into our daily lives, we can cultivate a deeper sense of happiness and fulfillment. It is a powerful tool that helps us navigate the ups and downs of life with grace and compassion. As we learn to quiet our minds and listen to our hearts, we unlock the door to a more peaceful and joyful existence. Non-attachment, letting go for lasting happiness. In our journey through life, we often cling tightly to the things we think will bring us happiness. We attach ourselves to relationships, possessions, and even our dreams. But what happens when these things change or disappear? This is where non-attachment comes in, a key teaching in Buddhism that can lead us to a deeper and more lasting happiness. Non-attachment does not mean we stop caring about the people or things in our lives. It means we learn to enjoy them without clinging to them. Think of it like holding a flower. You can appreciate its beauty, smell its fragrance, and enjoy its presence. However, if you grip it too tightly, you may crush it. Instead, hold it gently, allowing it to be beautiful in its own right, knowing that it is not yours to control. When we cling to things, we often create suffering for ourselves. Imagine a child with a favorite toy. If the toy breaks, the child may cry and feel lost, believing that their happiness is gone with it. This attachment can lead to disappointment, anger, or sadness. In contrast, if the child understands that toys come and go, they can enjoy the toy while it lasts, but also find joy in other experiences when it's gone. This is the essence of non-attachment. In relationships, attachment can be even more complex. We love our family and friends deeply, which is wonderful. However, when we cling to them with the expectation that they will always be there or act a certain way, we set ourselves up for pain. People change, circumstances shift, and life takes unexpected turns. If we attach our happiness to their presence or behavior, we may find ourselves unhappy when things do not go as planned. Instead, practicing non-attachment in relationships means cherishing the moments we have together while accepting that change is a natural part of life. We can appreciate our loved ones without needing to control them or fearing their loss. This allows our relationships to flourish in a healthier way as we give each other space to grow and evolve. Non-attachment also applies to our goals and desires. It's natural to have dreams and aspirations. However, when we become overly attached to achieving them, we may overlook the joy of the journey. If we fixate on a specific outcome, we may miss opportunities and experiences that come our way along the path. For example, think of a student studying for an exam. If their happiness is tied only to passing with a high score, they may experience stress and anxiety. Instead, if they focus on learning and growing, enjoying the process of studying and discovering new things, they will find joy regardless of the exam's outcome. Practicing non-attachment allows us to approach our goals with an open heart and mind. We can work hard and strive for what we want, but we can also let go of the need for things to turn out a certain way. This creates space for new possibilities and reduces the pressure we often place on ourselves. Letting go of attachment is not always easy. It requires awareness and practice. When we feel ourselves clinging to something, we can take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of losing? Why do I feel the need to hold on so tightly? Recognizing these feelings can help us understand our attachments better. Meditation is a powerful tool in this journey. By sitting quietly and observing our thoughts and feelings, we can develop a sense of detachment from them. We learn to watch our desires come and go without getting caught up in them. This practice helps us cultivate a sense of inner peace and allows us to experience life more fully. Another helpful approach is gratitude. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we can shift our mindset from attachment to appreciation. When we are grateful for our experiences, relationships, and even our challenges, we create a sense of contentment that does not depend on external circumstances. Non-attachment also leads to a lighter heart. When we stop carrying the weight of expectations, fears, and desires, we find freedom. We can approach life with curiosity and openness, allowing ourselves to be surprised by the beauty and joy that unfolds around us. As we practice non-attachment, we begin to experience happiness that is more stable and enduring. Instead of relying on external factors to determine our joy, we find it within ourselves. This inner happiness is not affected by what we gain or lose. It is a deep sense of peace that comes from acceptance and understanding. In the end, non-attachment is about living life fully without being chained by our desires. It's about enjoying the moment, appreciating what we have, and accepting that everything is temporary. By embracing non-attachment, we can cultivate a lasting happiness that withstands the challenges and changes life throws our way. So, let us practice non-attachment in our daily lives. Let us hold our dreams and loved ones gently, enjoying their presence while recognizing that true happiness lies within us, not in the things we hold on to. In this way, we can find peace, joy, and freedom in our hearts, no matter what life brings. Letting go of the need for validation. In life, many of us seek validation from others. We want to feel accepted, appreciated, and loved. This desire is natural. However, the problem arises when we rely on external approval to define our self-worth. When we seek validation from others, we often find ourselves on a never-ending cycle of craving. This cycle can lead to disappointment, frustration, and even unhappiness. Imagine a flower blooming beautifully in a garden. It doesn't need the approval of the bees to feel lovely. It simply exists in its own beauty, thriving in the sunlight and rain. In the same way, we must learn to embrace our true selves without the constant need for recognition from those around us. Buddhism teaches us about the concept of non-attachment. This principle encourages us to let go of our dependence on external validation. When we cling to the idea that our worth is tied to how others see us, we create a burden on our hearts. It becomes difficult to find peace and happiness when we feel like we must constantly prove ourselves. To cultivate this non-attachment, we must first look inward. We should ask ourselves, what truly makes me happy? Is it the praise from friends and family, or is it something deeper within? Understanding the source of our happiness is crucial. True contentment comes from recognizing our inherent value as individuals, independent of what others think. As we journey further into the teachings of Buddhism, we realize that validation can come from within. This shift in perspective is essential for our growth. When we validate ourselves, we begin to see our worth beyond external opinions. We start to appreciate our unique qualities and talents without needing affirmation from others. Letting go of the need for validation also means releasing the fear of criticism. Many people fear judgment, which can hinder their ability to express themselves freely. This fear often leads to conforming to the expectations of others. When we can embrace our true selves, we liberate ourselves from this fear. Take a moment to reflect on a time when you held back your thoughts or feelings because you were afraid of how others would react. How did that make you feel? Perhaps you felt stifled or untrue to yourself. Now imagine a life where you could express your thoughts and emotions without fear of judgment. This is the freedom that comes from letting go of the need for validation. In Buddhism, we learn to practice self-compassion. This means treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, just as we would treat a friend in need. When we make mistakes or face challenges, instead of seeking external approval or criticism, we should remind ourselves that we are human. We all struggle and grow, and that is perfectly okay. Self-compassion helps us build a strong foundation of self-acceptance. When we accept ourselves, flaws and all, we begin to cultivate inner strength. This inner strength allows us to face the world with confidence, free from the chains of seeking validation. We can walk our path authentically, knowing that our worth is not defined by others. As we practice self-acceptance, we can also extend this compassion to others. When we let go of the need for validation, we open our hearts to love and support those around us. We become less focused on ourselves and more on how we can uplift others. This shift creates a positive cycle of compassion that can enhance our relationships and our communities. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of community, or sangha. When we connect with others from a place of genuine acceptance, we foster an environment of support and understanding. We are no longer seeking validation, but sharing our experiences and helping each other grow. This shared journey brings us closer together and enriches our lives. Letting go of the need for validation also allows us to appreciate the beauty in impermanence. In life, nothing is permanent. Relationships change, circumstances shift, and our feelings can fluctuate. When we cling to the idea of constant approval, we resist the natural flow of life. Accepting impermanence enables us to live more fully in the present moment, appreciating each experience without attachment. In practicing mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment. When feelings of inadequacy or the need for validation arise, we can simply acknowledge them. Instead of allowing these feelings to control us, we can observe them, let them pass, and return to our breath. This practice cultivates awareness and helps us detach from unhealthy patterns of thinking. As we deepen our understanding of ourselves, we can also recognize that everyone has their own journey. Just as we seek validation, others do too. By understanding this shared experience, we can approach others with empathy. We can offer kindness and support rather than judgment. This shift in perspective strengthens our connections and creates a more compassionate world. In letting go of the need for validation, we unlock a treasure trove of inner peace. We no longer tie our happiness to the opinions of others. Instead, we create a sanctuary of self-love and acceptance within ourselves. This sanctuary becomes a source of strength, guiding us through life's challenges with grace and resilience. Ultimately, true happiness comes from within. It is a state of being that cannot be found through external sources. As we practice letting go of the need for validation, we begin to discover the richness of our own lives. We learn to embrace our uniqueness, our strengths, and our imperfections. In conclusion, the journey of letting go of the need for validation is an essential part of finding true happiness. It requires patience and practice, but offers profound rewards. As we learn to validate ourselves, we not only transform our own lives, but also positively impact those around us. Through this transformation, we can cultivate a more compassionate, understanding, and joyful world, one that honors each individual's journey towards happiness. The practice of loving kindness, spreading joy to others. In the heart of Buddhism lies a beautiful practice called loving kindness, or metta. This practice teaches us how to open our hearts and minds to the world around us. It is about spreading love and kindness, not just to ourselves, but to everyone we meet. Loving kindness can be the light that guides us through difficult times and helps us stay happy in life. Imagine you wake up one morning feeling heavy in your heart. Maybe something went wrong the day before, or perhaps you're just feeling down. Now, think of someone who makes you smile. It could be a friend, a family member, or even a pet. When you bring that person to mind, notice how your heart feels. This simple act of thinking about someone you love can shift your mood and remind you of the joy that connection brings. This is the essence of loving kindness. Loving kindness begins with ourselves. We must learn to love ourselves first before we can share that love with others. But what does it mean to love ourselves? It means treating ourselves with kindness and compassion. It means acknowledging our struggles without judgment and allowing ourselves to feel without rushing to fix things. It is a gentle embrace of who we are, flaws and all. Take a moment to think about how you speak to yourself. Are you harsh and critical, or do you offer words of encouragement and understanding? Many people are quick to judge themselves, but Buddhism teaches us that self-love is the foundation of all love. When we can accept and care for ourselves, we naturally extend that kindness to others. One way to cultivate loving kindness is through meditation. Finding a quiet place to sit and breathe can help you connect with your heart. As you sit comfortably, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale deeply, filling your lungs, and exhale slowly. As you breathe, begin to silently repeat phrases like, "May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease." After a few moments, think of someone you care about. Imagine them in front of you and repeat the same phrases for them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease. Visualize sending your love and kindness to them. You can even extend this practice to include others in your life, friends, acquaintances, or even those you may have difficulties with. This practice can be transformative. When we send love and kindness into the world, we begin to see a shift in our relationships and our perspective. Rather than holding on to anger or resentment, we learn to forgive and let go. We find peace in the act of loving others, and in doing so, we create a happier and more connected world. It's important to remember that loving kindness is not just a one-time event. It is a practice that grows stronger over time. The more we engage in this practice, the more natural it becomes. It starts with a small seed of love within us, which, with nurturing, can blossom into a vast garden of kindness. As we practice loving kindness, we also begin to understand the interconnectedness of all beings. Buddhism teaches that we are not separate from each other. Rather, we are all part of a larger whole. When we wish for others to be happy, we are also wishing for our own happiness. When someone else experiences joy, it reflects back to us and enriches our lives. Consider how acts of kindness can ripple out into the world. A simple smile at a stranger, a compliment to a friend, or a helping hand to someone in need can create waves of positivity. When we show kindness to others, we inspire them to act kindly as well. This cycle of kindness can create a more compassionate and joyful community. Another powerful aspect of loving kindness is its ability to combat negative emotions. When we feel anger, jealousy, or sadness, we can return to our loving kindness practice. Instead of letting these feelings take control, we can consciously choose to replace them with love. For example, when you feel envy towards someone, pause and take a breath. Instead of allowing that envy to grow, send loving kindness to that person. Wish them happiness and success. You might be surprised at how this simple shift can change your feelings and bring you peace. The practice of loving kindness also encourages us to be patient and forgiving with ourselves. We are all human, and we will make mistakes. When we stumble, it's easy to be hard on ourselves. But loving kindness teaches us that it's okay to falter. Instead of harsh criticism, we can offer ourselves the same compassion we would extend to a dear friend. In this way, loving kindness nurtures not only our relationships with others, but also our relationship with ourselves. The more we practice, the more we grow in our ability to love unconditionally. We become beacons of kindness, shining brightly in a world that often feels dark and overwhelming. As we continue on our journey of loving kindness, we begin to realize that happiness is not something we chase or grasp at. Instead, it is a natural result of living with an open heart. When we fill our hearts with love, we attract happiness and positivity into our lives. So, let us commit to this practice. Let us choose to spread love and kindness wherever we go. Let us remember that even the smallest act of kindness can make a significant difference. The more we practice loving kindness, the more we become vessels of joy and compassion in a world that needs it. Through this journey of loving kindness, we discover that the path to happiness is not about seeking external sources of joy. Instead, it is about nurturing the love that resides within us and sharing it with the world. In doing so, we create a happier life, not only for ourselves but for everyone we encounter along the way.